The Hanafi, Maliki, Shafai, and Hanbali schools are the four major orthodox schools of Islamic law, madahib, singular, madhab, in Sunni Islam. They all share the same fundamental beliefs and agree on the vast majority of rulings. Their differences lie not in core creed, aqidah, but in methodology for deriving Islamic law, fiqh, from its primary sources, the Quran and the Sunnah, teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. The main differences between them can be summarized in their sources of law and the methodologies, usul al-fiqh, they use to interpret them. Here is a breakdown of their primary differentiators, at a glance, key differences. Hanafi, Abu Hanifa, 767, Turkey, Balkans, Central Asia, Indian subcontinent, China. Emphasis on reason and analogy, Qiyas. Relies heavily on juristic preference, Istihsan. Maliki, Malik ibn Anas, 795, North Africa, West Africa, UAE, Kuwait. Heavy reliance on the practices of the people of Medina as a living source of Sunnah. Uses public interest, Maslaha Mursala. Shafai, al-Shafai, 820, Egypt, East Africa, Yemen, Southeast Asia, Sri Lanka. Systematized usul al-fiqh. Prioritizes the Quran, then Sunnah, then Ijma, then Qiyas. Hanbali, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, d. 855, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Strict adherence to the Quran and Hadith. Minimizes the use of human reasoning, rejects juristic preference. Detailed methodological differences. 1. The Hanafi school. Primary source after Quran, Sunnah, analogy, Qiyas. They use systematic reasoning to apply existing rulings to new situations. Key method, Istihsan, juristic preference. This is their most distinctive tool. It allows a jurist to abandon a ruling derived by strict analogy for a more equitable, fair, or publicly beneficial one. It introduces flexibility to avoid rigid or unfair outcomes. View on Hadith. They were more cautious in accepting a single narrator, ahad, hadith if it contradicted a well-established, practiced principle. The hadith had to be very widely known and authenticated to override reasoning. Example, in ritual purification, if water is scarce, Hanafis permit wiping over leather socks, kaf, for a full day, based on a hadith and the principle of easing difficulty. 2. The Maliki school. Primary source after Quran, Sunnah, the practice, amal, of the people of Medina. Imam Malik considered the continuous practice of the Muslims in Medina, the city of the Prophet, as a living, collective testimony and a reliable transmission of the Prophet's Sunnah, sometimes even giving it precedence over a weekly transmitted hadith. Key method, Maslaha Mursala, unrestricted public interest. They can derive rulings based on what secures a benefit or prevents harm for the community, even if there is no specific text from the Quran or Sunnah on the matter, as long as it doesn't contradict Islamic principles. View on Hadith. They incorporated the practice of Medina as a filter for understanding Hadith. Example, compiling the Quran into one book after the Prophet's death was justified under Maslaha Mursala, as it preserved the religion for the community. 3. The Shafi'i school primary contribution, systematization of usul al-fiqh. Imam al-Shafi'i is known as the architect of the principles of Islamic jurisprudence. He created a clear, hierarchical structure for legal sources. Hierarchy of sources. 1. Quran. 2. Sunnah, giving the Sunnah a more central and independent role than the Hanafis did. 3. Consensus. Ijma. 4. Analogy. Qiyas. He explicitly rejected istihsan and maslaha mursala as formal sources, considering them a form of creating law without a basis. View on hadith. He gave equal weight to solitary hadith, ahad, if they were authenticated, making his school more text-heavy than the Hanafi school. Example, the ruling for the prohibition of eating shellfish is derived by qiyas. Just as a lion is a wild beast of prey on land, a shark is a wild beast of prey in the sea, so both are prohibited. 4. The Hanbali school. Primary source, strict adherence to the text, Nas. This school is the most text-based of the four. It gives the utmost priority to the Quran and Hadith, and is very cautious about using human reasoning. Hierarchy of sources. 1. Quran. 2. Sunnah. Even a weak Hadith can be preferred over analogy. 3. Opinions of the companions. 4. Qiyas. Only when absolutely necessary. Rejection of other methods. It largely rejects istihsan, viewing it as legislating by whim, and is very strict on maslaha. Key method. Pursuing the spirit of the law to block the means to evil. Sad al-Dari. They proactively prohibit things that are permissible in themselves if they are likely to lead to something unlawful. Example, the school might prohibit a seemingly permissible business transaction if it is frequently used as a legal trick, hila, to deal with usury, riba. A practical example, starting the prayer. All schools agree the prayer begins with the phrase, Allahu Akbar, Takbiratul Ihram. However, the position of the hands differs slightly. Hanafi, men place their hands below the navel. Women place their hands on their chest. Maliki, men let their arms hang loosely at their sides. This is the most distinct position. Women place their hands on their chest. Shafi'i, men and women place their hands above the navel and below the chest. Hanbali, men place their hands on their chest. Women place their hands on their chest. Conclusion, a mercy, not a division. It is crucial to understand that these differences are considered a manifestation of God's mercy, Rahmah. The diversity of scholarly opinion accommodates the varying circumstances and cultures of the Muslim community worldwide. A common saying among classical scholars encapsulates this well: the difference of opinion among my companions is a mercy for my ummah. All four schools are considered equally valid paths to practicing Sunni Islam, and Muslims generally follow one based on their family tradition or geographic location. The core beliefs, acts of worship, and moral principles remain universally the same.